Hello everyone, this is Mix K. Today I'm going to be going over ions and how we find the atomic number for ions. So an ion is a charged atom. Okay, so this atom can have a positive or negative charge. Now ions of the same element, okay, have different charges. So that's what makes them different from each other. And the reason they have different charges is because they have different numbers of electrons. So when we talked about our neutral atoms, we talked about how the positive and negative charges need to cancel out and they equal 0. So we have the same number of protons and the same number of electrons. Now in an ion, those numbers are not the same. So if I have just try to get my Jamboard to work. If I have 3 positive protons, okay, and 3 negative electrons, that charge is going to come out to 0. But let's say I lose one of these electrons. Okay, I lose an electron, and now I only have 2. So if we think about this like adding positive and negative numbers, we have positive 3 for the 3 positive protons, plus negative 2 for the 2 negative electrons. And when we add those together, we're going to end up with a charge, plus 1. So the charge of this atom would be positive 1. When we have positive protons, or not positive protons, positive atoms, they are called cations. And cations have more protons than electrons. They lose electrons and become positive. Now let's say we have the opposite. Let's say we had 3 protons. Oh wait, let me get this. There we go. 3 positive protons, okay, and 3 negative electrons. Okay, our charge is going to add up to 0, right? That's our neutral atom. They're equal to each other. This time, though, instead of losing an electron, let's say we gain an electron. So instead of losing an electron, I gain 1. Okay, so we're going to add these together. So I have positive 3 plus negative 4. Okay, and when I add those together, I'm going to get a charge. I'm going to get negative 1. So when we have a negative atom, that is called an anion. Okay, an anion. Let me just see what I wrote on the previous slide. And in an anion, the electrons are going to be greater than the number of protons. And so in these atoms, they gain electrons. Now, what I like to do when I think about ions is one way I remember the difference. Cations are positive. One way you can remember is the T in cation looks like a plus sign. Or if you like cats, you can remember that cats are great and they're a positive thing. Anions are negative. One of the ways I remember that anions are negative is the prefix an. In English class, you might have learned about the antagonist, who is generally the bad guy. So an means bad or negative. If you're anti something, you're against it. So when we see this prefix an in the beginning of anion, it means negative. Okay? Cations become positive because they lose electrons. Anions become negative because they gain electrons. A good way to think about this is thinking about if you gain someone really negative in your life. So you meet like a really nasty person, they're very negative. When they come into your life, you're going to feel more negative. You're going to feel bad. When you gain something negative, like an electron or a bad friend, you're going to feel more negative. Now, when you get rid of that negative person from your life, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more positive. So when you get rid of something negative, like an electron, it's going to become more positive. So because we're gaining and losing electrons, the electrons are negatively charged. When you lose a negative electron, the atom becomes more positive. When you gain a negative electron, the atom becomes more negative. Now, the way we're going to figure this out is it's actually going to be very similar to how we did this for our neutral atoms. But the part that's going to be different is the number of electrons. So let's fill this out as if it was a regular old atom for now, and then we're going to adjust for the charges, okay? So we look at our periodic table. First, we have oxygen. So let's go check it out. Oxygen has an atomic number of 8 and a mass number of 16.00. Okay, so our top number, the atomic number is 8, and we're going to round 16.00 to 16. Now our protons are going to be equal to our atomic number. Our neutrons are going to be the mass minus the protons equals the neutrons. So we do 16 minus 8 equals 8. Now normally our electrons would still be the same as the number of protons, but that's in a neutral atom. So for now, I'm going to write the same number, but I know I'm going to need to change this in the end. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight this whole column to remind myself I'm not done here. I'm going to need to change these before I'm finished. What color do I want to change it to? Let's do pink. That didn't do anything. There we go. Okay. So now let's do sodium. If we go to our periodic table, we look at sodium. Its atomic number is 11. Its mass is 22.99. Okay. So we have our atomic number is 11. 22.99 is going to round up to 23. Our protons are always going to equal our atomic number. We're going to do mass minus protons equals 12 neutrons. For now, I'm going to put the same number of electrons, but we're going to come back to it. Okay, fluorine. Fluorine has an atomic number of 9 and a mass number of 19.00. Oops, sorry, guys. Okay, atomic number of 9. 19.00 is going to round to 19. Our number of protons is always going to equal the atomic number, so it's going to be 9. And to get our neutrons, we do mass minus protons equals neutrons. So we're going to get 10. And for now, I'm going to put my number of protons the same over here as my number of electrons, and we're going to come back to it. Okay, this one should be easy because they're both carbon, so we can just do it at the same time. So carbon has an atomic number of 6 and a mass of 12.01. So 6, 12.01, we can round to 12. The number of protons will still be 6. And to get our neutrons, we do mass minus protons equals neutrons. Okay. Now, this one's going to be the same until we change the charge. So it's going to still be carbon, so all these things will be the same. So now this is where things change. This is where we need to look at our number of electrons and look at the charges. So remember, when we gain electrons, our atoms become negative. When we lose electrons, our atoms become positive. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the charge. And if it's negative, we have gained electrons. So we have to add to this number over here. So if I have -2, that means I gain 2 electrons. So I'm going to add 2 to that and get 10. Okay? Now here I have a positive 1 charge. So I've lost 1 electron. So I'm going to subtract 1 over here, and I happen to get 10 again. We're going to see a little pattern starting up here. Okay, now I have negative 1. So that means I gained 1 electron. So I'm going to add 1 over here to my number of electrons. Here I have plus 4. So that means I lost 4 electrons. So I'm going to subtract 4 from my number of electrons over here to get my new value. Okay. And for my last one here, I had negative 4. So I'm going to add 4 to this. I gained 4 electrons, and I got 10. So the pattern is everything's going to be the same as the most abundant neutral atom. But what you have to do in the end is if you have an anion, a negative charge, you have to add electrons to your atom. Okay, when you gain electrons, it becomes more negative. If the atom is positive, if it's a cation, you're going to lose electrons. Okay, you lost electrons, meaning that you had more protons, so it became positive. Now, you might be asking, why can't we just change the number of protons? Now, we cannot change the number of protons because the protons tell us what type of atom we have. So if we change the protons, we're completely changing the element instead of just changing the charge. By changing the electrons, all we have changed is the charge of the atom. Okay, I think there was just one more thing I needed to say, and I'm just trying to remember what it was. Don't forget to do the homework for practice. And don't forget the way to remember. Think about if something negative comes into your life, you become more negative. Just like if an atom gains a negative electron, it gets a negative charge. If you lose something negative from your life, you're going to feel more positive. Just like if an atom loses an electron, it becomes more positive. Okay, have a lovely day, everyone, and I hope this video helped.